Ladies and gentlemen, now I've been having a bit of a field weekend with Nick Fury, man. I absolutely love this champion. He is so good, and I feel like every single day I'm just learning more and more. There's so much depth to this character, and one thing, courtesy of Reddit user Rootbier, that I've learned today is that if you time the special 3 right while you're applying a light attack as well, you can supercharge the already very, very OP bleed into a mega bleed that deals triple damage and absolutely annihilates your opponent. So this takes a little bit of ramp up, bit of preparation as well, because you need to be in that final phase. You need to have the Fury buff active, and also the internal bleeding if you want the additional bonus damage. But as you can see from these 2 clips, mate, if you can smash this one out, and this might be something that does get changed, man, and this does work with a few different interactions, but if you can get this done, it's just absolutely ridiculous, mate. It's so incredibly powerful on an already very, very good champion, man. So it's just a nice little icing on the cake thing for giving him some mega damage, and the rate of that Yellowjacket and Carnage just dropping, mate, is just great to watch, man. It's such a good time. It's like a guaranteed domino critical bleed. I absolutely love it. Nick Fury is just shaping up to be the absolute king of bleed champions. He's very high risk in terms of his playstyle, because, you know, you do want to get to that second phase if you want the big damage. But as you can see, man, crazy, crazy high reward. But anyway, I'll show you kind of on some fights here and some examples how we set up that crazy bleed, because it does take a little bit of time and a little bit of effort to do. It's not something that you're just going to waltz into any matchup if you want that insane bleed damage. You do need to get to that second phase, so you need the real Nick Fury out, and you do need his awakened ability, man, because that is so incredibly important if you want the big damage out of Nick Fury. And then here we are fighting the Masochism Carnage, so the next step is get 16 tactical charges, so we can also gain unblockable as well and get those intervals where you can kind of just smash into his block and get ins there, which just makes, you know, any matchup substantially easier. Now, after you've used 2 special ones, your goal is to get the internal bleed while you're ramping up to the SB3. So to get internal bleed, you need a combined total of 8 stacks of the bleed. So we've got 7 at the moment here. I'm trying to bait out a special attack. So yeah, we are very close to getting the internal bleed there, but we kind of messed it up a little bit just using medium attacks here. The unblockable is just so good for creating intervals, man. So yeah, I think we throw off maybe a heavy here. I should have thrown off a heavy, man. We were very, very close to it, but I think there was some sort of like bug or interaction where we ended up getting 2 stacks of internal bleed. So that was a pretty good time there. Now on this combo, as soon as we have that pistol shot off the light attack, literally as soon as you hear that sound effect go off and see that the bleed has applied, you want to smash the special 3, and this is going to supercharge the damage, because if you have the Fury and also the internal bleed, it basically like doubles his attack for the duration of the SB3, and if you time it just right, you get that mega bleed, and it's not like too difficult to do. You just need to get used to the animation timing, but literally as soon as, you know, you fire off that final light attack, get that pistol shot, it becomes quite easy to do. Now, next up, I just want to showcase the full Nick Fury versus Yellowjacket fight here, because this one is pretty interesting. And definitely, you know, masochism is one of those big things that I know a lot of, you know, intermediate and progressing players do struggle with. So it's just really nice to see, if you can play quite well, man, that a 3-star version can just absolutely demolish so much stuff. So we purposely die here just at the start, so that we can get into the second phase, throw off a special 1, gain 8 tactical charges, and that's what I usually like to do when playing Nick Fury, just at the beginning, man, kind of get just above the special 1, and then purposely die so we can enter kind of the real Nick Fury phase, which is really where the damage begins to ramp up a fair bit. So now we've got 16 tactical charges. We're cooking on gas. The objective now, once we've got 16 stacks of tactical charge, is to get 8 stacks of bleed as we're building up. As seen kind of in the previous fight, we need that internal bleed for kind of the bonus, not only damage off the special 3, but also the increased duration of the light attack bleed as well with the tactical charges. You know, there's multiple functionality, so you get, you know, so much more damage off that light bleed. So yeah, it looks like there's some sort of interaction with masochism where it gives you kind of like multiple stacks of internal bleed, so I'm not really too sure what's going on there. But we go for the light combo there, special 3. You can see Yellowjacket at the moment is at 63%, and I think I purposely didn't use many like kind of light ending attacks because I wanted just to see like the raw bleed damage take Yellowjacket down, and you can see just absolutely nuked him, man. It's just so incredibly good, like just over 6,000 damage every single second from a 3-star character. It's game over, boys. Next up, I wanted to showcase a couple of evade champions. We've got Spider-Man Miles Morales and then also Buffet Spider-Man. Because one of the really good things that Nick Fury does is as soon as you have over 5 tactical charges, and again, in that second phase, man, it's really, really easy to get them. So he purposely took that last web shot there to enter the second phase, fire off a special 1, then we immediately go to 8 of them. Then he completely ignores evade on the opponent. So you're going to see this little message pop up, evade failed. And yeah, evade champions just become really, really easy to fight. And you can see, you know, in the kind of example of this matchup, just how simple it is really to take down evade characters. So this, you know, it might be a little bit trickier in certain matchups where there's like stun immunity to begin with. But if you can get just to that first special, you're going to be having a really, really good time. So yeah, it's just crazy how easy evade champions become when you just don't need to worry about the evade. You can just kind of knock into their block as well, because it means they're much easier to push to stuff like the second special. But here we could use the special 2 stun to push us there for safety, but we go all in for kind of the special 3 mega bleed here, fire it off, and Miles is getting nuked. I think, you know, especially with this bleed, man, there is something so incredibly satisfying about Nick Fury's ultimate. It's just such a good time. You see the bleed just absolutely rinses that lad, man. Now, next up in terms of fights, we've got classic Spider-Man on Buffet. Now, when it comes to the Buffet node, Nick Fury has some interactions that you've kind of got to be aware of. Like, if you have Buffet, like, if you haven't procced it and you enter your second phase, it will consume the Fury, which is really what you need from the second phase. So you got to make sure, if you're going to die against Buffet purposely and enter that kind of real Nick Fury phase, that you trigger Buffet just before you enter it, or else, you know, you're not going to have the damage. So we quickly swipe back to trigger it, and you've got, you know, a couple of seconds once you enter the second phase where you're pretty much immortal, man. You see Spider-Man like punching us down to 1% and Nick Fury just pinging back up. So yeah, that's really, really nice as well. But this Spider-Man matchup, a little bit flaky. Obviously, if you want to fight Spider-Man and characters with projectiles, you need to be very, very on the ball when it comes to evading those projectiles. Because again, Nick Fury, he's a very high risk but very high reward champion to play. So you got to be very, very on the ball, man. And I think I managed to get a special 1 evade here just by the tip of my tongue, so not too bad. And we're looking to line up kind of that ultimate SB3 here with very, very low health, but we fire it off, get the bleed, and this is also going to push him to the special 2, which puts him in perfect range to get absolutely nuked. But yeah, I remember having such a problem on this Spider-Man like well back in the day, mate, so it's good just to see him get absolutely annihilated. Now, to finish this video off, I wanted to jump back into Realm of Legends to kind of showcase an updated speed kill with this triple bleed damage tactic, and also, you know, gives a few examples of you lads to see it, and, you know, how much this tactic can open up Nick Fury even more. So, you know, because this is the second fight, we've already got the real Nick Fury, we've got the Fury, you know, we're starting at 30% here, so we can go straight in with the internal bleed, and I'm going for absolute max damage once I got those tactical charges up as well. But yeah, this is a really interesting one, man, because I've had such a fun time playing Nick Fury over the last few days. I've definitely seen quite a few people debating in the comments on whether or not Nick Fury is too overpowered, but I think, you know, you've got to consider the circumstances where this is a good champion. It's very, very high-risk gameplay. Like, when you're playing him, you're at that final, like, 30%, and in a lot of modes of gameplay, like Alliance Quest, Alliance War, that's not really going to be a viable strategy for a lot of people. And in comparison to, let's have a look at, you know, Aegon, Domino with full Trinity, Ghost, there are some really, really powerful champions in this game that you don't need to put in that really, really high-risk situation in comparison to Nick Fury. So I think he's very, very similar in terms of a champion to Thing. But also with Nick Fury, you have the added thing of if you add in like bleed immunity or really high chance to shrug off debuffs, or some like fun and interactive damage, then, you know, he doesn't really have the health pool to deal with it. So while I think Nick Fury, you know, at the moment kind of looks like the king of the bleeders, I don't think he's so overpowered in his way that he's going to be like the absolute dominant champion of the game. But I do think he's got a very kind of of niche as this very high risk but very high reward bleed damage output character that can just put in so much work. And kind of reading the spotlight for Nick Fury, I really think that's what the developers intended, is just to give us another champion-like thing that to play really, really well, you need to be literally on the edge of death and maybe like build a bit of a team around. But if you can pull him off, if you can play perfectly, you're just going to deal so much damage, have a really, really great time, have access to some very cool utility that's really useful, like the counter to evade and also the unblockable. So yeah, I'm not too sure. I think that Nick Fury is kind of super broken, but I do think that he is by far the strongest bleed damage output character that we do have in the game. But I would say Domino's critical bleeds, man, they can hit for a lot, and there are a lot of videos of like Domino taking down like Realm of Legends bosses and stuff like 6 hits, and that hasn't been nerfed, so I'm fairly optimistic that Nick Fury is going to kind of stay in his current state. But there we go, man, that bleed is so incredibly good when you time it with a light attack. So I love that little tip and trick, and hopefully you enjoyed today's video and enjoyed learning a little bit more about Nick Fury. But there we go, Realm of Legends Captain Marvel going down in 200 hits. So if you did enjoy it, ladies and gentlemen, smash that like button, that'd be greatly appreciated. Aside from that, thank you so much for watching, take care, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic day.